Hello and welcome to another midday recipe with me, Chef Day. So, welcome. This is a really fun one to do today because you guys asked me for it. And it's really lovely when we get feedback from you guys and you tell us what you want to see. So, I'm going to make sure that I can see all your comments on here on my computer, and so the beauty of Alive is that you guys can ask questions as we cook along together. So you guys can save this recipe to look at later on. And what we find is that a lot of people, they prefer just to watch along when I'm live and ask questions. You know, it's a really good opportunity for you to ask me about the substitutions, or, you know, if you've got any allergies, you know, what you can use instead of various things. So let me just get this up and we're the right way around today. That's always a good start. Sometimes it does happen that we're the wrong way round, but today we're the right way around. So it's a really good start, and I can see that you can see everything there. We've been trying out a couple of different angles. You know, we've got this one where you guys can see me straight on, but we've also got the one which is from over there, and it'd be great to know, you know, your feedback on that, and, you know, if you can see everything clearly, because that is the most important thing, that you guys can see what I'm doing. So we will be holding things up to the camera as much as possible. I know that some of you watch on like the tiniest phones ever, they're like that small. So, you know, try and make things as obvious as we can. So we have our list of ingredients here today. It looks quite busy. I will admit, it does look quite busy, but there is a very good reason for that. Because today, I'm not only teaching you how to make a carrot cake, but I'm also teaching you how to make carrot cake mini muffins. So this is my muffin tray. So I decided that today, rather than making a whole carrot cake, I would make mini muffins. Carly says, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. And Ingrid and Gloria and Bertie and Antoni. Thank you for joining me. You're watching together. That's great. So the reason why I decided I wanted to make mini muffins instead of a whole cake is that, you know, I make like a whole cake and then it's just me and Jeff that eat it. So we have been sharing it with our neighbours though as well, which is a great bit of vegan outreach at the moment. So Paul said, yep, just about afternoon, and Deborah, love carrot cake and love muffins. So yes, you put them together, and what do you have? You have vegan treat heaven, basically. So so I'm making these so that we don't eat cake for lunch again, which it wasn't a bad thing. That was a very good day. Pancakes for breakfast and then cake for lunch. But it was his birthday, so you know. Yes, so we're going to be making the mini muffins today. So what I've done is I have taken my carrot cake recipe and I put the amount onto the board, but I have also reduced the amount by two-thirds today. So basically I've taken a whole carrot cake recipe, and I know I can kind of like guesstimate, just because I've been doing this a long time, that I'm going to need about a third of the batter to put in here. So let me just come round and explain to you guys what we've got on the board. So we are actually going to share a picture of this as well. So we have all of our ingredients here, and on this side we have the amount that is going to be going into a cake. This is the amount that is going to be going into an actual cake. So my cake tin is about that big. The amount on this side is is a third of the total amount. And these are the amounts that we're going to be putting in to our mini muffins. So this is the full amount along here, and then along here is a third of the full amount, and that's the amount that we'll need for the mini muffins only, because we don't really need a huge amount. So I hope that made sense, guys. Because also, you know, what this is teaching you guys is how to do the ratio of recipes. And one thing to note on this is that whenever you either increase or decrease a recipe, write it all out first. So take your recipe and then just write the amounts to one side of the ingredients. And it doesn't matter how how much of a proficient baker you are, how great a chef you are. It's definitely the thing to do, because it even happens to me still after, you know, like 10, 11 years of being a chef. I know that I'm making a half recipe and then I'll be going through the ingredients and, you know, the cats will do something, or, you know, the door will go, or the phone will go, or I'll get a text, or I see, like, you know, one of your comments on our Facebook page or whatever. I will get distracted and then I'll go back to the recipe and I'll forget that I'm meant to be halving it. It just happens, So, be warned. Okay, so we've got Karen, thank you for joining us again. David, thank you, and Melanie. So, let's get going. We'll just pop our little muffin tray to one side. And now our first ingredient that we're going to be using is flax. So you guys may have heard about flax being a really great substitute for egg. And we basically mix ground flaxseed with water. That will thicken, and it will get thicker and thicker and thicker, and that will really help to bind the cake recipe together. So you may have heard it called a flax egg. So literally, I'm just going to pop that water in there, give it a mix, and then set it to one side while we deal with the rest of the ingredients. So it may look like this is an overwhelming recipe because there's lots of ingredients, but really it's not. It's just that we've got things like nuts in there and we've got like a few different spices, and I'm using 2 different flours. So that brings me nicely onto our flours. So we have gram flour here and we have tapioca flour. You can use potato starch instead of tapioca flour. It has exactly the same properties. Tapioca flour you're more likely to get in America. Potato starch, much easier to get in the UK and also much cheaper than tapioca flour. Gram flour, this is like my go-to flour, really easy, really cheap to buy as well. Lots of supermarkets in the UK sell it now as well. You could use something else in its stead, something like a rice flour. If you're not gluten-free, then just substitute these 2 for plain flour. So rather than using like 2 different flours, just use one flour, just use plain flour. And that's like a direct substitution. So with all of my recipes, they are gluten-free because I'm gluten-free, but I will endeavour to give you the gluten-containing substitute. So it's much easier to change a recipe from gluten-free to with gluten than the other way around. So with our quantities here, we've got 25 grams of gram flour, 25 grams of the tapioca flour. So if I was going to sub it out for plain flour, I would just use 50 grams of plain flour. So it's the total amount of plain flour. Okay, so we can pop this into a bowl. Literally, it's just going to be a matter of popping all these things into a bowl and mixing them. Like, it's really not difficult at all. Okay, and then we need our raising agent. So we've got some baking powder and about 1/4 teaspoon of this. I mean, that's the thing, like when you're getting into these small amounts, reducing the recipe can get a bit tricky. Just because you're dealing with really tiny quantities. But in this recipe, if you're a little bit over with the raising agents, doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. And then we've got our spices. Also, sorry, just to say, that was baking powder and bicarbonate of soda. Harry says, love carrot cake. No problem. Always happy to help and have carrot cake for lunch. Okay, so now we've got our spices. Queen, thank you for joining us. Lovely to see you here. We've got our spices, so you guys can mix it up if you want. You know, any of those kind of like autumnal sweet spices are great for a carrot cake, but you know, do feel like you can freestyle. So we've got ginger, some ground ginger here. So about 1/4 teaspoon of that. 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. This is going to be very spicy. I really love adding spices to my food wherever and whenever I can, and that is because oh, do you know what I've realised I've just done? I was gabbing away too much and I didn't realise that I actually just put a whole 1/4 teaspoon of allspice in there. Okay, I'm going to take that out and start again. I talk too much. It's probably not a bad thing on a show like this though. Can you imagine if I was just silent? There we go. Okay, so that's a really, really good thing to point out, is with the nutmeg you have to be really careful. So you can add a pinch of nutmeg or a pinch of allspice, but you have to be very, very careful with it. So that's why I want you to like dig those out. If I put in too much ginger, wouldn't have minded at all, wouldn't have been a problem. If I put in too much cinnamon, again, not a problem at all, but because it was the allspice there, I wanted to dig that out. So we've got a little pinch of allspice in there now. Phew. Because otherwise it's just like too overpowering. It's far, far too overpowering. And then we've got some cinnamon here, and again, about a quarter of a teaspoon into here. But if you put a bit too much in, absolutely fine. Linda and Shay, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. So what's next? Nuts. So I do actually put lots of stuff into my carrot cake. I like it having texture. I like it having spice. So we're going to pop some hazelnuts in. But you can use whatever nuts you want. I think hazelnuts, walnuts, those types of, well, they're English nuts actually. They can actually grow in this country. It still can be a little bit difficult to get actually English nuts, but they can grow here. So more and more I'm finding myself like trying to incorporate any produce that either is grown in the UK or could potentially be grown in the UK into my cooking, and also into the recipes that we're teaching actually in our physical school, because, you know, if we can use what's around us more rather than getting stuff flown and shipped in from across the other side of the world, that's always a good thing. So I'm going to pop hazelnuts in here, but I'm just going to crush them, and while I crush them I'm going to ask you guys if you've got any questions for me. So you can ask me questions about this recipe, you can ask me questions about other recipes, you could ask me questions about, you know, what back of the cupboard ingredients you've got. Please do ask us that. We've got quite a few people who've been commenting on our in our group. So we just recently launched our community hub, which is our Facebook group, so you guys can ask us questions on there. We did have a question regarding a back of the cupboard ingredient. This is a classic one, chestnut puree. Yeah, it's quite a random one. It is quite a random one, but really, you know, with a chestnut puree, it is a very, very versatile thing, because basically it's kind of like a nut butter, nut sauce, that type of thing. So you can use it in something like a nut roast. It's really, really, really delicious in a nut roast. It has a really lovely flavour, and it's a bit fancy, you know, so it's a really, really great way to elevate a nut roast, which they get a bad rap. They do get a really, really, really bad rap. If you guys are in the UK and you want to try a really nice ready-made nut roast, then I really recommend Clive's Pies. It's a company that's just gone completely vegan, and a lot of their products are gluten-free as well. We recently did a project with those guys, and our students they developed recipes for nut roast and veggie bakes for them, which will be going into production, which is bloody awesome. And they did so well. Like some of the recipes that they came up with were really, really so accomplished. I was very, very, very impressed. And so we had like quite an intense day in the school where the guys from Clive Pies, they came down and they tasted all of them. Yeah, it was a bit like MasterChef. Which one was I? Like Greg Wallace or John Turode? Which one do you think? Anyway, Carly said, can you make these and freeze them, obviously without the icing? Yep, absolutely you can. I'm not sure why you'd want to though. I don't think mine are going to make it to the freezer, I'll have to be honest. Paul said, are you continuing every day at noon as you have been doing? Yes, I am. Yes, well, okay. So we at the school are, but yesterday we had Katie do her recipe, and on Monday we had Arpita, and it went so well, and they did such a good job and really, really enjoyed it, that that's going to be a regular thing. So on Mondays and Wednesdays it won't be me, I'm afraid, but you'll be in very, very good, very capable hands, and we may have a new presenter for Fridays. So, but we will be there, we will be here, on the page for you every day at midday. We promise, promise, promise. Deborah said bicarbonate and baking soda. Sorry, were you asking the difference? There we go, I can see your comment now. Bicarbonate and baking soda have never been clear on the difference. Okay, so basically, sorry, let me just bring this back down again. Don't you just love technology? So basically, here we go. So baking powder actually contains some bicarb, but it also contains other ingredients as well. So monocalcium phosphate and cornstarch, whereas this. Okay, today is not going as well as I thought it would. These are both baking powder. For God's sake. And this is bicarbonate of soda. You know, I only just realised that because I'm having to talk about it. So, bicarbonate of soda is just bicarbonate of soda, and that's it. So it has like slightly different properties. So bicarbonate of soda will make things just have air in them. That's all it will do. So if you've ever added it to pancakes, and you'll see you get the bubbles. If you've ever made something like oh gosh, what's that stuff called that a crunchy is made out of? I can't think of the name of it, but it's like a toffee, and that you just put bicarbonate of soda into that, and basically it just creates air bubbles in it. That's what that does. Whereas like baking powder, it also makes things kind of like firm as well. So it has like a couple of like different properties in that. But quite often you'll see it as you'll see in a lot of recipes to add both. Sorry about that. I don't know where my head is at today. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but at the moment, sometimes I'm just a complete airhead. I think, you know, there's a lot going on, so right, focus. Okay, so right, let me see if you got any more comments. I've been loving these recipes. Good. Honeycomb! Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to our live recipe where Chef Day Radley has a meltdown. Bet you won't count on that. Okay, right, so we've got our nuts in there. We didn't actually put any bicarb in there, so I'm going to put a bit in now. There we go. Okay, and let's just see any new comments. Deborah said thank you. No problem at all. Right, okay, so we put our nuts into here, and then we've got our sugar. So 25 grams. What would the vegan honeycomb be called? Well, that's the thing. Actually, honeycomb doesn't actually have honey in it. It's literally just like a bucket load of sugar and bicarbonate, and that's it. So actually, it's already vegan. So maybe it just shouldn't be called honeycomb. Maybe it should be called vegan comb. Don Jr. Good name. Carrot cake yum indeed. So 25 grams of sugar. I use coconut sugar. You can use any sugar that you're comfortable with using. Okay, so we'll just pop the sugar in there. And that is sugar today. Isn't anything else crazy that isn't meant to be going into there. And then we've got our carrots. So with our carrots, I'm going to finely grate them because they're going into this muffin pan. If you're going to be using a big cake tin, then don't worry about them being fine. It's just that with this mixture, I know that to get something to stick together and to hold together, it's better if it's not too chunky. And Katie said thank you. No problem. So Dagiana, lovely name. We'll get a lot of people with really lovely names on this show, which is awesome. And she says that she wants to make it for Easter. It's a really good Easter recipe actually. And if you have yellow marzipan at home, I don't, unfortunately, but there is a very easy way to make yellow marzipan into the shape of little chicks, which would look really, really cute on top of these mini muffins. I was very, very gutted that I don't have any at the moment. Okay, so now what we want to do with this is squeeze any water out of it. Okay, so scoop it up in my hands and press, and you'll see there's quite a lot of juice that comes out of that. There we go. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want to add any more moisture to the cake. I know that with the ratios that I've got it at, it will come out perfectly. So, you know, if you introduce liquid from the carrot, then it can be a bit of an unknown quantity because some carrots will be more juicy than others, which I'm sure you guys will have found if you have a juicer. Then, you know, sometimes that happens. You know, it happens with all kind of fruit and veg. I'll just pop these over here. Get my hands a quick rinse because they're carroty. I think I missed a question up here. Just a second. So, Donna Marie, thank you for joining me. I haven't seen you in a very, very, very long time. Okay, right. Paul said, I take it then that this Facebook Live event is continuing every day at noon over the Easter period and afterwards, and that there will be guest presenters on Mondays and Wednesdays. Yes, exactly. That is what it means. And possibly Friday in the midst of sorting that out. Okay, so we've got our carrot in there. Just give it a good mix. Donna Marie said too long. Yes, indeed. Okay, so into this bowl we need to add our liquids. So we have 25 ml of oil here, and I just use a neutral oil, so I use a sunflower oil. Any neutral oil we'll use, even like a light olive oil would do the job absolutely fine. So we're going to pop our liquids into here with our flaxseed egg. Don't worry that it's a bit thick now, that's absolutely fine. And give it all a good mix. There we go. Okay, now this can go into our pan. What I was going to say was this. If you are using a small pan like this, it's a really, really good idea to use a tablespoon to measure out the batter that's going to go into the pan. Just because, you know, it keeps it even, and it means that you don't have to then, you know, because sometimes like you do it, you know, you put them into the holes and then you get to this point and you've got hardly any left, and then you have to like go back over them and, you know, like scrape a bit off each one, and that's just a bit of a faff, and yeah, gets a bit messy. I totally forgot about the rainbow today. I told you I'm going a bit mad. There's a rainbow somewhere here. Virginia, maybe you can guess. Help me out here. Okay, right, there is a rainbow here today, because there is always a rainbow in my kitchen every single day for you guys to point out to me. So where is it today? Where is it today? We did have a comment that I just missed. Let me just go up. No, I can't do that. Sorry, bear with me. I know that this is the most exciting part of the show. Hi Day, I made the burgers and they got a massive thumbs up from hubby and daughter. They were delicious, thank you. Good. So we are getting quite a lot of people who are making our recipes, and they're posting photos of their recipes in our community hub, which is our Facebook page, which is very, very, very exciting. Okay, so I'm just popping these into my tin, which is non-stick. So if you either don't have a non-stick tray, or you have a tray that was once non-stick and is no longer non-stick, then use a little bit of oil, but only a dab of oil, not too much. These aren't Yorkshire puddings, so they don't need a ton of oil. in each hole. Deborah! Well done, well done, well done, well done. You guessed where the rainbow was for it, or is today. Thank you. So just popping these into here, and then I'm going to pop them into the oven for around 20-25 minutes, something like that, at 180 degrees. Okay, almost there, guys. Okay, I've got a tiny bit left. Just have a look at which ones have less in and just top them up slightly. Okay, so there you have it. I'm just going to pop these into the oven, as I said, or make believe, pop them into my oven. Because, of course, here is one I made earlier. So I'm going to bring these round to you guys, so hopefully you can see. Oop, there we go. Okay. So, oop, there we go. Cute, huh? Very, very cute. Kind of makes me feel like a giant as well when I have food that it's this small. Yeah, I mean, that's a good game to play. Pretend like you're a giant. Anyway, now I'm going to show you a really, really easy topping for this. And the reason why I want to show you the topping is because we had quite a few questions about cream cheese frosting. And the reason why people were asking about the cream cheese frosting was that when I did the birthday cake, was it last week or the year before? Like, I'm completely losing my days and weeks. So when I made the cream cheese frosting, we had quite a few questions from people about a substitute for the cream cheese that I used, because, you know, in some countries you can't get the vegan cream cheese, and also just at the moment, you know, you might not be able to get it. So let's do a different topping for that, and we're going to be using cashew nuts. I have my cashew nuts here behind me, and they have been soaking in hot water. So they're nice and soft now, so I'll get rid of the water. So I soaked them in water that had been boiling for about 10 minutes, something like that. And then I have this oil here that I'm going to use. So this is a coconut oil, but it isn't just any coconut oil, it is refined coconut oil. So what that means is that there's no flavour and there's no odour of coconut. So you can use unrefined if you want, just be aware that it's going to have that coconutty flavour, and that is something that you may or may not want. So let's just grab a spoon and we'll pop this into there. So this is just a really, really, really simple way to make a cashew frosting that is also going to set. If you're not bothered about it setting, then you don't have to use this, okay? You don't have to use it. We are also going to add some of our soy milk. You can use any kind of like plant milk. So basically we need 2 tablespoons of each of these. 1, 2, and again the amounts have been put onto the board for doing it mini muffin style or a whole cake. You know, so if you're making a whole cake, then obviously you're going to need more frosting. Can you imagine not putting enough frosting on there? That would suck. Frosting is like the best bit. Okay, so with our trusty hand blender, we're going to mix this. I've also had a few questions about using like different blenders. You can use different blenders. The only thing is that, you know, with the hand blender, it really works well with a small amount. If you put this into a jug blender, then you would have to keep stopping it and scraping down the sides and then blending it again. The same with a NutriBullet as well. You can do it, and you can make really, really lovely cashew creams with a NutriBullet. So if you've got one of those, I really urge you to try it out with different things. You know, not just smoothers. It's really, really great for lots of things. Dawn, thank you for joining me. And Patricia says, you love this recipe. I'm so glad. I am so glad. So despite all of my errors today, but you know, we're all going a little bit bonkers at the moment, so at least we're doing it together. Right, so now I'm just going to blend this. I'm going to keep on blending it until this gets really, really smooth. So please bear with me. Blending it, I'm actually moving it around a lot. That's the only way that we're going to be able to blend all of those bits and pieces. The blender just isn't going to be able to shoot it around and move this liquid around very much at all, so we've really got to help it out. And it's still looking bitter and you think, oh, this just isn't going to work. Don't worry, just persevere. I'm gonna bring it up to you guys though, so you can see how creamy it is. I think that when you're talking about frosting, it needs to be creamy. I don't really want a frosting to have texture to it. It's different if there's a topping on it, then that's fine. But I don't really want it to have a texture inside. So Dagiana said nice hand blender. So this is like one of the kitchen implements that I use the most. I make sure that whenever I buy one, it is over 500 watts, because as you saw, I just kept it going for quite a long time, and you don't want the motor to burn out. And I use my equipment a lot, like a lot. So it needs to be able to keep up with me, basically. Let's show you guys this. Okay, there we go. You see how lovely and creamy that is? There's a slight texture there, but, you know, not chunky at all. So we had a question, how long in the oven if you do this recipe as a cake, please? And is it still 180 degrees? Yes, still 180 degrees, but it would probably take around like 40 minutes, something like that. But as ever with cakes, when you say the guide time, it's always like an estimate, because with people's ovens, they can really differ in temperature, and there is no oven in the world, I would put a bet on this, maybe, there is no oven in the world that is actually the temperature that it says it is at. Never, 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 never. So I actually have a thermometer in my oven, which is a great thing to have, and so I know when it's actually at the right temperature, which is wonderful. But it's always like an estimate, so you need to like see how they are, how they feel. Let me just pop this in here and I'll talk to you more about that in a second, and I'll show you these cakes to demonstrate. So we've got about 1.5 tablespoons of powdered sugar in here, but you can always add more if you want. It's really up to you guys. And so just a note on that, I blended it without the icing sugar because I just want the wet stuff in there. That's going to really, really help the blender, because when you're using a hand blender, you need to just bear that in mind. So it's going to be a lot easier for the blender just to whisk up, to blend up the wet stuff first, and then we'll add the powdered sugar afterwards. So Dagiana asked how many cashews did I use? So I used 50 grams of cashews, and then I soaked them in hot water for about 10 minutes, something like that. So we've got our rice and sugar in there. I'm actually going to use a little bit of this as well. Oh, there's our teaspoon. This is ground cardamom, which is absolutely divine. So you can put whatever flavouring you want to put in this. If you've got some lemon zest, that might be a really, really lovely thing to put in there. Unfortunately, I don't have any lemons at the moment. But that would be, you know, a nice addition. I absolutely love ground cardamom. Okay, so back to the question about when you know that a cake is done. So, you know, we can always give guidance, and I would say that for a cake that is about that big, it's probably something around like 40 to 45 minutes, maybe 35 minutes, something like that. But let me show you. So basically, you know, the way that you know that a cake is done is you press the top of it, and if it springs back at you, that's what you're looking for. So with any type of sponge cake, that's the rule. The only cake that doesn't work with is brownies. Doesn't work with brownies. With brownies, you have to kind of like know, and just like by trial and error, you get to know when your brownie recipe is done. Because the thing is that with brownies, and we will make brownies one day together, the thing is with brownies is that as they cool, they set because they've got the chocolate inside. So they may actually feel like they're underdone when you take them out of the oven, but then they'll cool down and they will firm up. Okay, so I'm just going to take my little mini muffins and dab a small amount of frosting into there. And you know, I think that when you're decorating a carrot cake, it can be really difficult to figure out, well, how do I decorate it? Because, you know, you look on the internet and some of the decorations are just a bit not very inspiring at all. So I was just looking around my kitchen as to like what I could use, and I have this stuff, which I know is a bit random, and you guys will probably not have this in your kitchen. This is safflower. So at the school, we're always looking for different ways to decorate our food. So, you know, I've talked to you guys before about using tea. Using herbal teas, so you can literally just open up the packets, because everything in there will be edible. So, you know, we've got some nighttime tea with lavender in it here, and that would be lovely to add to a cake like this. So rather than sprinkling this on top, I'm actually going to pop the topping onto the surface here and just dab. There we go. And I chose this because it's orange, basically. That's the only link, and because I think it looks quite pretty. There we go. And it looks quite different as well. I mean, you know, this is the thing, like with any kind of sweet recipe, you can really go to town on making it look pretty. With sweet stuff, you can just really, you know, play around, you know, have like bright colours and, you know, quirky things and cute things, and yeah, you name it. Okay, so any questions about the recipe today, or other food related questions? Just to reiterate what is going on our crazy board today. So, you know, this recipe is carrot cake or carrot cake mini muffins. Okay, so we have the amount for a cake, but we also have the amount for the mini muffins. The amount for the cake, which is that big, is along here and here, and then the amounts for the mini muffins are along here and here. But we will be sharing the written recipe for this in our group. So we've just recently launched our community hub. We'll put all of the written recipes into there. We're trying to figure out like a good way where we can have some sort of like a repository for you guys to flick through. We do also have a website, so we might just put them on a website and put a link to that there. We've got loads of recipes on there as well. So the last topping is this lovely stuff, which is safflower, and it's just such a beautiful colour. There we go. Look how beautiful that is. Very, very, such a lovely colour. Orange is apparently meant to make you hungry. So, and I'm definitely hungry now. Now I know I missed a few comments there, so let me just see if I can get them up. How do you store the leftovers? What leftovers? So if you mean this, then you can just pop that into the fridge. I wouldn't freeze it though. And that would make a great emergency dessert, which we do have a video of. So, having something like this in your fridge, I don't think it will go to waste. Just think of like how you can use it in some sort of like just random dessert. So, this like mixed in with some frozen berries would be really lovely. Really, really lovely. Paul said, I reckon it would be easy to eat a lot of mini muffins. Yes, it would. It would. You can time me if you want. That would be a good end to the show. Right, okay. Any more questions? Oh, Dawn said, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. Diana said that they're pretty. They are indeed very, very pretty. Bertie said, thanks, Dave. The cashew icing is a great idea. So this is one that will set. Just remember, if you don't really need it to set, you don't need to worry about the coconut oil. And I know that this, might be something you don't have at home, so you can just do it with the cashews. Kaylee, lovely name again. Thank you. She said, let me just, where it's gone. There we go. Thank you. I don't have a sweet tooth other than for banana bread and carrot cake. Made of banana bread. Can't wait to try this one too. Good. Yeah, I must say that is one of the things about my desserts and sweet treats is that they're not overly sugary. And I always say that you can add more sugar if you want. It's just that I don't have a huge amount of sugar in my diet, so I don't like things to be too sweet. But you can always play around with that and you can add more. And particularly with the icing, with the frosting on top, you can make that sweeter if you want. Okay, Diana said, thank you. Happy Easter. Enjoy and be safe. Absolutely. Thank you for you wrapped it up really, really nicely there for me. Please do join us tomorrow, midday GMT. We will be here every single day as long as you guys need us at midday, sharing our recipes, but also sharing lots of knowledge so you guys can get tips and tricks from us. It isn't just about the recipe, it is also about teaching you guys how to be better cooks. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a lovely day.